In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces raided villages in the occupied West Bank where they detained dozens of people. And in France, people are holding protests against the extreme right wing throughout the country in the run-up to the earlier legislative elections on June 30. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Thursday, presidential candidates of Venezuela signed an agreement to recognize the results of the July 28th elections. In this sense, 8 of the 10 candidates committed themselves to accept and respect the results of the presidential elections of July 28th in order to maintain peace and a healthy national coexistence. Precisely, the agreement is the result of a proposal made by the president and candidate Nicolás Maduro. In this context, the president of the National Electoral Council, Elvis Amoroso, reaffirmed the respect of the electoral warranties established in the Barbados and Caracas agreements. It should be emphasized that the extreme right candidates Edmundo González and candidate Enrique Márquez were not signatories to the agreement.
The National Electoral Council has been compliant with the electoral guarantees in each of the phases of the process established in the electoral chronogram, as well as validating the results issued for the electoral power, respecting the perfect expression of the popular will. Through the manifesto of suffrage in accordance with the provision of the Barbados and Caracas agreements.
In this regard, the president and candidate Nicolás Maduro affirmed that the agreement is an anti-violence pact.
No to violence, no to the guarimba. This signature is an anti-guarimba signature because there are people who like to use the electoral processes to prepare for violence, to shout fraud. And today, with this signature, we have said we do not want violence. Respect for the referee. If the referee summons you, you are obliged, as a candidate, to go to listen to the referee.
For his part, the presidential candidate for the independent party Alianza del Lápiz, Antonio Ecarri, asked the National Electoral Council to hold a presidential debate so that each candidate can defend his position in view of the July 28th elections.
What we want is to have a debate in Venezuela, and that debate is defined in the arena, and it is here in the institutions where we are going to have the debate. It is not in the streets, nor with violence, nor by encircling what is not, nor by calling, nor by gossiping for other countries. It is here where we are going to give the fight. It is here where we are going to give the arguments, and it is here where we are going to give the debate.
The presidential candidate for Democratic Action, Luis Eduardo Martínez, called on the political sectors and the Venezuelan society to guarantee a credible and transparent election day that prioritizes the will of the Venezuelan people.
This is not the time of one person. This is the time of a whole people. It is essential that we all, absolutely all of us, participate actively to guarantee a credible and transparent electoral process. Candidates, political parties, opposition of any sign, government, members of different sectors of society, citizens. We have to make a great effort so that on July 28th, at the polls, the will of the people is expressed, and on July 29th, all together united to work for Venezuela.
We go to Mexico, where President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum announced the first 6 members of her cabinet. The announcement was made during a press conference held at the Interactive Economy Museum, where Sheinbaum said the new cabinet will have a gender parity. The 6 appointed members so far are Rosaura Ruiz Gutiérrez, Marcelo Ebrard, Juan Ramón de la Fuente Ramírez, Alicia Bárcena Ibarra, Julio Verdegué Santristán, and Ernestina Godoy. The future head of state revealed that next Thursday she will officially present the remaining 6 members of her administration.
We are clear that there is a mandate from the people of Mexico, and that we will not betray that mandate. I am very proud and happy that those who are here today have accepted to be part of our team. They are first-quality men and women with experience who will also help us a lot to achieve our objectives in the next 6 years.
In Ecuador, an increase in the number of deaths was reported due to strong storms that have shaken the Andean zone of the country since last weekend. The National Secretariat of Risk Management reported that so far, 18 deaths, 28 injured and 4 missing have been confirmed. Most of the deaths were registered after the landslide that affected last Sunday an area near the tourist municipality of Baños de Agua Santa. The Secretariat also indicated that approximately 21 houses were destroyed and 71 others were reported with minor damages, in addition to 5 bridges destroyed and more than 33 kilometers of public road damage. Due to the rainfall, the authorities have declared a state of emergency in the provinces of Tungurahua, Chimborazo, Morona, Santiago and Napo, located in the Andean and Amazon regions of the country. And in El Salvador, the Director of Civil Protection, Luis Amaya, confirmed a total of 13 deaths after intense rainfalls affecting the country. Amaya highlighted that among the victims is a 14-year-old minor who lost her life after the collapse of one of the walls of her house in the district of Santo Tomas. As a result of the storm, over 1,500 incidents have been reported, including landslides, fallen trees, and obstructed roads. Meanwhile, in France, warnings were issued and evacuations were carried out due to intense storms that floods that have affected different regions for the past week. Meteorological teams indicated that during the day on Thursday, the storms were moving eastwards, gradually reaching the German border. 12 departments are now affected by an orange alert for storms and floods, according to the latest bulletin issued by the authorities. In this context, the Public Flood Information Service urged affected residents to stay indoors, avoid using cars and stay away from water courses, shallows and bridges.
Last night, the water level went up quite a bit. At the moment it's staying at basement level. We've raised everything in the living room and we're keeping our fingers crossed that it will stop there.
In Kenya, over 300 people were killed due to heavy rains that have hit the country since March. The United Nations Organization for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs confirmed that the floods, swollen rivers and landslides have forced the displacement of almost 300,000 people, while another 40 are still missing. The Kenyan government set up more than 81 shelters to house some 54,000 people affected by the floods. The authorities indicate that 5,300 schools were affected by the rains, of which 140 have suspended their academic activities. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Israeli occupation forces raided villages in the occupied West Bank where they detained dozens of people. Wafa news agency reported that during the early hours of Friday morning, 8 citizens were taken away with blindfolds on after the military broke into their homes in Halal Shon camp, north of Ramallah. Arrests were also reported in Silwat, Nablus, Alar and Ramallah. This week, the Palestinian Prisoners Club revealed that more than 9,300 Palestinians, including 75 women and 240 minors, are currently being held in Israeli prisons. In this context, hundreds of citizens denounced the frequent kidnappings and detentions that the Zionist regime of Israel continues to carry out in the territory. This unjustified imprisonment entailed criminal treatments and tortures.
They beat me in jail and then they told me to put my head under the bus and that I could not look up. They beat me on my hands and feet. They beat me very hard and I was very afraid. I wanted to grab someone to get me out, but I couldn't find anyone.
On Friday, Israeli shellings slaughtered at least 15 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, 259 days since the onset of this genocidal war on the civilian population, which has already left over 37,000 deaths. On Thursday afternoon, an attack by the occupation army on a house in Zaytun, southeast of Gaza City, claimed the lives of 8 civilians who were transferred to the Baptist hospital. Meanwhile, medical sources further reported that 2 citizens were killed and 12 were injured in the shelling of a house in Nusayrat refugee camp, while a 3rd citizen perished in the Al-Bala during a military raid in the city. Attacks were further registered in Khan Yunis and Rafah in the south of the devastated Gaza Strip. In Palestine, the media department appealed to UNESCO to urge Israel to stop its aggression towards cultural and educational centers in Gaza City. Thousands of books from public and private libraries in the coastal enclave have been destroyed by the Zionist regime of Israel, including library infrastructures. The media department announced that what Israel, with these crimes, tears down part of Gazans' lives, practicing an ethnic cleansing that includes the disappearance of the Palestinian historical memory and the spread of international ignorance.
The Gaza Municipal Library, where we are now, is considered one of the most important libraries in the city of Gaza. This library included 3 sections: the book section, the language section and the children's section. This library had about 50,000 books and was described as the main library of Gaza City during the Israeli aggression and war. The Israeli occupation forces deliberately attacked several life elements in Gaza City as it attacked and destroyed offices, in addition to tearing down a library in the Rashad al-Shura Center, and smashed many private and public libraries in several universities and institutions, where many libraries changed their role after being attacked in Gaza City.
On Thursday, the Palestinian resistance group Hamas reported on the detention of Palestinian Parliament President Aziz Dueik by Israeli army. Dueik was arrested during an Israeli Defense Forces operation in the West Bank region of Hebron. The Speaker of Parliament had been released along with other Palestinian politicians only 3 days earlier. According to Wafa, in addition to Dueik, 2 other West Bank civilians were also arrested during the raid. In a statement, Hamas called on international organizations to release not only Dueik, but all the prisoners and disappeared in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Thousands of Israeli citizens held a demonstration on Thursday in front of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence to demand elections and an exchange agreement with the Gaza resistance. There were also mass rallies at other points where blockades of the main highways, strikes, and a general one took place. Signs demanding elections and referring to Netanyahu as a culprit could also be read. The police arrested at least 5 demonstrators who were blocking the main highway into Tel Aviv. Authorities said the detainees are accused of setting fire to several tires and blocking many routes in the northern occupied territories. On Wednesday, the Secretary of Iran's High Council for Human Rights, Qasem Qaribabadi, rejected the inclusion of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in the Canadian list of international terrorist organizations. Qaribabadi recalled Canada's dark history of mistreatment of indigenous peoples and its support for the anti-Iranian cult Mujahedin Khalq, which was removed from the Canadian list of terrorist organizations by Ottawa authorities in 2012. The Secretary emphasized the importance of the IRGC in safeguarding the national security of the Persian nation and in the fight against terrorism in Western Asia. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. the south. The French people are holding protests against the extreme right wing throughout the country in the run-up to the early legislative elections on June 30. Thousands of people demonstrated this Thursday in the city of Rennes, called by trade unions and organizations grouped in the Popular Front left-wing coalition. The participants of the march advanced through the streets chanting anti-fascist slogans and carrying banners reading "Social Response Against the Extreme Right." They expressed their rejection to the ideas of Marine Le Pen's National Grouping Party and its candidate for Prime Minister Jordan Bardella.
Like many people, I have a huge fear of seeing the national grouping in power with a government majority and a far-right prime minister. It's simply terrifying. We know that in all countries where there are far-right regimes, there are restrictions on fundamental freedoms, rollbacks on abortion, on all kinds of issues that are super important to us. And that's why it's super important to march, to be present.
In South Korea, the government announced that it would reconsider its position on supplying arms to Ukraine after Russia and North Korea sign a mutual assistance treaty in case either of them is attacked. The South Korean government condemned the agreement signed by Russia and North Korea and noted that any cooperation that directly or indirectly assists North Korea violates the Security Council resolutions. Seoul also warned that if Moscow harms South Korea's security, it will have negative impacts on their bilateral relations. In this regard, the South Korean executive informed that it will impose additional sanctions on 4 Russian ships, organizations and individuals involved in the transfer of arms and oil between North Korea and Russia.
The government clearly highlights that any act that directly or indirectly helps North Korea to increase its military force is a violation of the UN Security Council resolution and will be sanctioned by the international community, especially Russia, which is a permanent member of the Security Council. Violating the resolution and threatening South Korea's national security by supporting North Korea will negatively affect South Korea-Russia relations.
In turn, Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted that South Korea has nothing to worry about regarding a mutual defense pact that he signed while on a state visit to Pyongyang on Tuesday. Speaking at a press conference at the end of another state visit to Vietnam, Putin also made comparisons between the siege of Leningrad by the Nazis and Finnish forces in World War II and modern-day sanctions on the North Korea country.
South Korea, the Republic of Korea, has nothing to worry about because our assistance in the military sphere, that is, with North Korea, in accordance with the treaty that we signed, arises only if aggression is carried out against one of the signatories of this document. As far as I know, the Republic of Korea is not planning aggression against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which means that there is no need to fear our cooperation.
In India, authorities warned about an increase in fatalities following the consumption of adulterated alcohol. The affected allegedly consumed spurious liquor sold in packets and sachets last Tuesday and suffered aftermath various symptoms that alerted authorities in Kalakudishi district in the state of Tamil Nadu. The toxic mix has caused the death of 53 people thus far, while 118 are receiving treatment at different hospitals. The district's police inspector declared on Thursday that officials are carrying out investigations to discover the origin of the drinks. So far, 4 people have been arrested, leading to the seizing of 200 liters of adulterated alcohol. In Peru, world race walking champion Kimberly Garcia becomes the hope of her country for an Olympic medal at the Paris 2024 Games. Garcia won the 20 kilometers and 35 kilometers race walk at the 2022 World Championship in Eugene in the United States, becoming the first ever Peruvian world medalist of this event and the first Latin American to earn 2 titles in the same edition. After contemplating retirement due to an unfavorable performance in Tokyo 2020, the Marshes persisted in the sport and in 2023 won the 20-kilometer Pan American gold medal in Santiago. It is worth highlighting the last time a Peruvian claimed a podium in the Olympics was in Barcelona in 1992. Therefore, Garcia emerges as the main hope for the South American nation to break the 32-year drought at the July 26 Games.
The expectations are very high. I wouldn't say I just want the gold medal, and that's it. Whether it's gold, silver, or bronze, it will always be well received. As long as I get on the podium, I think I will be very happy. I mean, I don't want to lie and tell you that I will be fine with a 4th or 5th place, because that will be disappointing for me.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.